I'm Josh of SolidSmack.com.
Yes, and I'm Adam of CADJunkie.com, and
I'm Dean of Develop3D, and apparently the next Unibomber.
Apparently so. And, last Friday, every month, Josh, Al, and I chat about whatever we want.
Whatever
and today,
we want.
EvD Uncut is brought to you by...
Nobody in particular.
Once again. Al!
Yes, Adam.
You've been working on a project that involves metal and gasoline and
Awesome.
things that go vroom. Tell us about it.
Things that strip my knuckles. It's all good. So, it's a two-part thing. The first is I'm helping a friend of mine restore an old Triumph Tiger Cub, which is just fabulous. And I'm quite glad it's his, because it's not my drive that the oil's leaking all over. As is the way of fabulous old British motorbikes. But I stole an old tank out of his workshop. So we're going to use it as a little project for the magazine, where we run through some laser scan, and this thing's beaten to shit. Repair it all up, and then we're going to 3D print some custom badges and get them metallized, just to try out some of the different processes. So
cool.
It's kind of fun. So I spent the day yesterday in a very sweaty room in Bristol, laser scanning the tank, which taught me all manner of things. Mostly that Go on.
What kind of scanning rig were you using? Was it one of those handheld things?
No, it's a thing called. It's from a company called Solution IX or Solution X. They're Korean, so it's a white light scanner.
They're not sure which it is. It's either IX or X. Nobody knows. It's kind of just like...
Well, it's
they change the name depending on who they're talking to?
It's spelt Solution IX, but it's pronounced Solution X. I think it's kind of a Korean Latin thing that I don't really understand. But anyway, I think it was a Rex Scan 3, which it's a fantastic piece of kit, and we got it done in about 3 hours once we'd about putting all the dot registration dots and all that kind of stuff on.
A handheld?
No, it runs you can put it on a tripod or like a weighted arm. So as long as
it would be really interesting. I've been really interested in kind of the relative accuracy of all these different technologies, and I'm absolutely positive that this is far more accurate than other methods that are easier, less time consuming. But I'm just curious how much more, and whether it matters. I would be interested to do like a 1-2 3D catch of the thing, just out of nowhere, and then compare the two and just see them side by side. That would be an interesting.
Yeah, there's a guy that's got the project where he's waving a Connect around and capturing the data and doing it that way.
Yeah, right.
Which is quite a nice entry point into it. But the accuracy, I guess it doesn't really. If you're a metrology guy, you got your lab coat on and your big heavy glasses, one with stereotypes. Then debating 10 or 15 different microns here and there doesn't really matter. That's your stock and trade. But if you're just doing it for design purposes, like this project is, then the accuracy, as long as it's close enough, then
yeah, right. I mean,
there's always an ankle grinder.
Exactly. That's why God made sandpaper.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, so anyway, okay, that's cool. So you've got this tank that is presumably also from a Triumph Tiger Cub, or is it? Yeah,
it's an old 4-gallon tank. It's seen a little bit of life. I started stripping it down, with a wire brush mounted on the drill. I thought this would be easy, a couple of mil of paint to take off that's 50 years old. And then I found out how much filler the guy had put in it, and my backyard looked either like an explosion in a Colombian Coke factory or Christmas. I can't decide which. As soon as this thing hit this filler, it
started out as a 4-ounce. It started out as a 4-ounce gas tank, and it's actually only a 2-ounce gas tank after you take all the filler off.
Yeah, definitely. It's got kind of a steampunk cool about it. I think I might just clear coat it, leave it battered to shit.
On the Triumph Tiger Cub, it's what year is it? What is this bike? Do you just have the gas tank, or do you have the whole bike?
Beachy's got the whole bike, but I've just got this spare gas tank because I think it's a 62 there or thereabouts.
I mean, does it run at this point, or are you just getting there?
It'll kick over, but it's got no wheels on it at the minute, so it's kind of it runs, but it's got nowhere to go, which is kind of depressing.
You just sit in your garage and in your garage pants.
They're a fabulous little thing because they're only a 200cc, so you can't kill yourself on it. You know, someone else could kill you quite easily, but you're not gonna. You know, it's not one of those bikes where you find out that adrenaline's brown as soon as you hit the throttle. But it's quite nice. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I've been thinking of trying to pitch the guys in the office to let me buy another one off eBay and laser scan the whole thing.
I think that is a
good idea. They're not buying it yet. Yeah.
That is a fantastic idea.
What
I think
better
you
use
should
of
definitely do
money
that.
than to buy as many Triumph Tiger Cubs as you can? Really, one for each guy.
You have a whole tiger. You have a whole tiger family.
Like a pack.
It's like you got all the tiger pack, and but where's the mom and the? I mean, you got all these cubs, but they're like orphans.
Here comes Develop3D riding up on their tiger cubs again.
Okay. Yeah, just strap them all together in one big long line.
Yes.
That'd be nice.
Well, okay, so you've scanned this tank, and you said you were playing around with Geomagic. Is that right? What do you need that for? What are you doing with it?
So Geomagic takes you from the points and polys, and it's got some nifty little conversion tools that lets you lay out a surface patch and then shove that into the CAD system of your choice.
Shove it.
Shove it straight in. But
Right up in there.
Are you using it to convert into actual CAD geometry, like NURBS geometry, or just into a mesh that you can?
Well, I could do it as a mesh, but I've got to go through the whole repair process. So the good thing with this tank is it's only on one side. So we can flip and mirror certain bits and rebuild it. It's just to be perverse, really, and to me avoid doing any proper work. And also I'm kind of curious about the process of taking it from points through to surfaces. So It's keeping me out of trouble. It's good fun.
Well, are you going to do a cool badge, or are you going to do like some original style badge?
Yeah, I'm
Are you
going to do a
put
cool
on
badge.
Some Develop3D, you know.
I don't think I'll do that. I might do something cool. Just my name.
Skull and crossbones and Aldine.
I dare say that it's going to involve skulls at some point, but you know, that's the way of the world. Everything
As
is
it should. As
more
it should.
skulls, more cowbell.
Speaking of skulls, one other question this week. I was just curious. You know, we were talking with somebody earlier on this week, and this conversation came up about makers and apps and iPhone apps.
Oh boy.
And it seems like a lot of people do both of these things. Or like you see both of them, right? You see people at Maker Faire that have made cool apps for Android or iPhone or whatever, and that kind of goes along with the whole Maker thing, right? But somebody, you know, we were talking to was questioning whether or not designing an app counts as making, because you're not making anything physical. So Al, what do you think? Designing an iPhone app, is that making? Does that count as a maker activity?
I guess if you look up make in the dictionary, then it is. But to me, I don't know.
Making a dictionary?
No, if you look up the word make in
Oh,
the
right.
dictionary, then it's the creation of something, not whether it's particularly has a physical manifestation. Well, I guess an app does because it's on a phone. It's just pictures on a phone. But to
Yeah, I
me,
mean,
it
that's
seems
a
little
semantic argument. I mean,
Yeah.
really though, does that count? Like if your kid gets into making, and then all of a sudden he stops making physical things, and now he's just making iPhone apps. I
Yeah,
should say
what-
just. That sounds like I'm
what they're
choosing
getting
sides here.
at is that it's taking away any sort of physical activity, and they're saying that is not making. It's just pushing around pixels on a screen is not making. But that leads to making the physical a lot of times with some of the apps. A lot of it's just games and consuming, but there's some cool. Well, there's like that Ring app where you can design a ring and just send it to print right away. That's making, right?
Yeah, and I think it works the other way. There's a lot. The term make kind of pisses me off. I don't know why it is. It's treated like a new thing, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's
When did
like
that actually
craft,
start
but one letter
happening?
shorter.
Well, I mean, I think that's interesting. I for one, maybe it's just a generational thing, or the fact that I've always been a geek since birth. But I've always made digital stuff, and I've always considered myself. I don't know whether before the word maker was cool. creative person, I guess, but making things primarily digitally. And so I don't see anything wrong with it. I'm like, yeah, make a physical thing and make software and vice versa, or one or the other, you know.
So here's a question
matter
for
to me.
you. Make is quite analogous to craft, or craft, however you want to say it.
Depending on how, yeah.
Yeah. So do you consider 3D printing
Craft.
to be a craft? Or is it what you do with it? Is it always come down to, is it just a tool?
I consider CAD to be a craft.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not a handcraft, but it's definitely a
not-
craft of
it's not
sorts,
handicraft,
and you
but
can
it's-
be quite artistic with it. So,
Dude, that's not the definition. You don't have to be artistic with it. I mean, to me, it's about like you have, I'm always talking to students and people that I work with about craftsmanship. You can jump into a CAD system, any CAD system. You can make a crappy model and get something out that works, or you can take the time to do it right and set up the digital equivalent of jigs and fixtures and make everything clean and easy to work with and nice clean geometry that prints nicely. I mean, that's craftsmanship. It's just digital craftsmanship.
Have you ever read that David Pye book about craft and workmanship? He has this idea, he tosses about this idea, the difference between craft and production is the element of risk involved. So if you've got a guy that's carving a wooden, bear with me, this might take a little while. If you've got a guy that's carving a wooden bowl out with a chisel or a wood lathe, there's an inherent risk in that he can slip and he could the whole thing up.
or his hand.
Whereas in mass production, it's nailed and it's repeatable. So I kind of agree with that. But then you look at something like 3D printing, and it's a question of where the craft is. It's back-ended, and then the 3D print is just the production of it.
I
that
personally
risk
don't think that
reduction.
3D printing. I personally don't think 3D printing or think of it as a craft, but I think of the development of the data that creates that 3D print. I think that's craft. And even though, I mean, I guess you're right that there's sort of not the same type of risk you're talking about. I think that's kind of an arbitrary distinction. I think you can take the time to do a proper job building nice geometry, or you can just hack something together, and those are two different things, and I refer to that as craftsmanship.
And the 3D print is not the end of the object either. There's a certain amount of crafting that goes into that afterwards, or can go into that. I mean, just
Sanding,
depending-
priming, painting.
Well, yeah. I mean, that can be just depending on what the object is. Who knows? I mean, it could be a wood inlaid 3D print.
Well, like that insane filigree skull that the guy kickstarted.
oh yeah. I
You
mean,
look at that, and it's just a thing of beauty. It just happens that that's if you tried to do that, years ago the Japanese used to do that out of ivory, which was incredibly labour intensive. But this guy's just it's cool. I just like the idea of people making stuff for themselves.
It comes down to that whole art. What is art? What is design? And what counts as art? And it's these semantic debates. And what it comes down to me, for me, is make stuff. If you like making stuff, make stuff. And I don't, you can call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot that it's that make word again that is becoming a little bit annoying because all of a sudden it's new.
It's like I took out a subscription when MakeZine came out for the very first. I think I've got the first year's worth, and that was very much about the physical process of making stuff. And I took out a subscription again this year, and now it's all Arduino stuff. And I'm just thinking, I really don't care. One, I don't understand electronics. I could barely put a battery in the right way. So it kind of turned me off. It seems that there's a lot of focus on the electronics and maybe
well,
the
I
app
think
development.
do you think that you have to do that in order to kind of entertain younger people these days? Like, do kids today need electronics in order for something to be fun?
I don't know. Give a kid a block of wood and a chisel.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite dangerous, but they have some fun.
Yeah.
As long as they're not bleeding, it's fine.
Yeah.
It
Good
definitely
way of
does not.
filtering out the gene pool as well.
It definitely does not have to be electronic to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think don't you think that kids feel empowered when they have have made things that are electronic and that work. And I know that
When
the
they
first
have
time
duct
that I
tape and some cardboard and they can put together a house or a robot out of
I am
that.
absolutely
Oh, yeah.
not. I think that's fantastic. I'm not against that at all. I think kids should be doing all kinds of low tech games for sure. But I just know that the first time I played with an Arduino board was the first time I ever played with electronics at all, and this was 2 or 3 years ago. And just to be able to turn that damn LED on and off was like light bulbs are going off all over my head. Like, oh, this is how this stuff works. All of a sudden I look at my cell phone differently. All of a sudden I look at all these objects out there that were magic before, and it's like, oh, that's not magic. That's just a really fancy Arduino board. I see how that works. So, I don't know.
Yeah, well, those things have been around for a while too. I mean, you can go down to Radio Shack. I remember playing with those little boards from Radio Shack, putting what are they? The little ones where you clip in all the
Yeah. Or building a crystal radio or whatever. I mean
that's been around for ages too. And yeah, it's good. The kids are getting into electronics, and it's definitely easier for them to play with that. So yeah, all the better.
Al, do your kids ever help with your projects, like your motorcycle or your shed or whatever, gardening?
Well, I've got my constant companion, which is my little girl Maggie, who'll just sit there and pass ridiculously sharp tools to me. And I can pass that to them. It's like, shit, 5-year-old probably shouldn't be handling that, but I'll get the social services paying a visit now, if they happen to be listening. Yeah, they kind of dig it, and I like the fact, that's partly why I've got the greenhouse, is that you get so many kids these days that don't know where their foods come from. And you show the process of how something's created. Now, whether it's a workbench or whether it's how you grow tomatoes.
Or slaughtering a cow in your backyard. You got to do all that stuff so that...
Yeah. Goat, yeah,
A goat? Yeah,
winter
okay.
solstice has to be done.
All right. So moral of the story, make stuff, whatever that means.
Yeah.
How about that?
And do it for the kids. Did you guys have those G.I. Joes? We used to call them Action Man, which is a much better name, where you pull the cord and he used to say, I don't know, give me some cover. That kind of nonsense.
Right.
Have you ever pulled one of those apart? It's a fantastic... You pull it apart, you take this little box out with a string, and it's got a tiny little record player in it. It's but it's just got yeah, you pull one apart. It's not a PCB board and a little speaker.
Is there something in there that moves the arm over, like a little...
Yeah, it's got like a little thing in there that's spring loaded. So when you pull the cord, it's got a little leaf spring in there, so it winds up the little record, and then the arm tracks back across it.
Oh man, that is fantastic.
Look them up.
I was hoping you were going to say that there was another little G.I. Joe man inside that moved the arm. When you opened it, it looked up at you.
We are officially finished. This show is over.
Job done.
That is the end of that.
I didn't even get a chance to talk about my projects. I feel left out. I don't have any anyway.
A production of EvD Media.